A paired Think Aloud is a strategy to help young students become more aware of their thinking when they're solving a task, especially a difficult task. It's to help them think about their mindsets as well as the methods that they use to solve the problem. To start, you'll need to have 2 challenging tasks for the students, ones that you can fit on a slip of paper. So start first by framing the lesson with high expectations. I'm going to tell the students that I want them to think really hard about their thinking. The next step is to model what Think Aloud sounds like. So I always start with something that has nothing to do with the task that day. I oftentimes use my keys. So I model what I'm thinking while I'm looking for my keys. So ask the students to write down what they hear you say as you think aloud. Do you remember what I actually said? I said, what did I do with my keys? Yes, add another one.
You're trying to track back about what you did with your keys and where you were.
Great, so everybody, when you feed back to me, tell me exactly what you heard me say. What did I actually say? This is a really important step to model because students oftentimes find it difficult to think about the concept of thinking aloud. And they can write down the things that you say, which is what they'll have to do in a moment with their partner. Remind them that if their partner stops thinking, they can say something like, tell me what you're thinking. The next step is to explain the task to the students. There will be a listener and there will be a speaker. So the speaker's job is to just think aloud, just as I did when I couldn't find my keys. The speaker should think about their thoughts, their feelings, how they might approach the task, any strategies that they might use. The listener's job is to simply do that, to listen, and then to jot down some of the key things that the speaker says, but not to slow the speaker down while he or she is talking. The listener can also say things like, what are you thinking, or tell me a bit more, if the speaker stops thinking aloud. It's really important here that the listener doesn't try to solve the task because students the first time around are often tempted to help their partner solve the task. Just let the speaker talk. When the students are working in pairs, it's really important for them not to know who's going to be the speaker or the listener before they start. Who in the room are the apples? I ask them to decide who's going to be an apple and who's going to be a banana. So they choose, so then when I say go, the apples are going to be the speaker, or vice versa. Once you say go, and the students start speaking or thinking aloud, make sure that the listeners are just listening and not trying to solve the task. So in the debrief, you just ask the listeners to feedback things that you heard or they heard their partner say.
Ruben said, I don't understand it. I'm a bit confused. It's just words. I don't really like acting, so it's irrelevant to my life. I disagree.
And you list them on the board. List as many as you possibly can. And just acknowledge to the whole class that everybody will have read the task aloud, so we've said that one and sort of tick that off. Encourage them to feedback on the thoughts that students would say or the methods that they might have done as they were going through and solving the task. But they shouldn't offer any opinions, they're only reporting back what they heard. Once you have all of the quotes on the board, ask the students to look at them and do a think, pair, share. So think by yourself and then pair and share with your partner on which are the most helpful lines or thoughts that the speaker said.
Because you're doubting yourself before you've even made the mistake.
Yeah.
The first time trying sometimes is the hardest.
Yeah.
I kind of like, what's the point? Because if you kind of think about the whole thing again, then you can maybe understand it. And if you think about why you're doing it, then you might understand like the question or the text that you're reading.
You could read through like words, or not necessarily words, but like 2 words at a time, because sometimes only 2 words make sense when they're put together.
You'll notice that some of the thoughts are mindsets or attitudes to the difficult task, and some of them are strategies that the students would use. Help the students see the difference between these, and acknowledge that some are going to be neutral. Things like, this is really difficult isn't necessarily helpful or unhelpful. It's an acknowledgement that the task might be difficult. After you've had a discussion with the students on the first round, have a second round, and this time switch partners. So the speaker will now be the listener, and the listener will now be the speaker. Give them about the same amount of time, and when you're finished, the whole class again can feedback. At this point, I oftentimes insert some of the other strategies that I might have used, and I help the students to understand the difficult tasks. So in the lesson, we've also experienced a sense of success.